Okay, so the topic we're going to learn about today is how to keep Shabbat according to halacha. That's going to be the topic today, based on the teshuvah of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid, one of the great luminaries of Morocco in the previous generation. He was an intimate friend of Rabbi Yaakov Abichsira. It's around that time period. He was actually older than him. And he lived in the city of Titwan. And he has a monumental teshuvah, teshuvah in Vayomer Yitzchak Chelek Aleph Siman Chav Daled about this subject. And really, it's something that happens very often. I'll give you the case scenario that happened a few months ago, that somebody asked me the following question. He sells online many products, computers, and I don't know what else, many products online. And in order to make sure that the business runs according to halacha, he asked me what's the proper solution, because Shabbat already he's closed, but Yom Tov he was open, and it was going to be Pesach, Chol HaMoed, and Pesach, Yom Tov. He said, is there a way to make it halachically feasible? If not, not. But is there a way to make it halachically feasible? So some people have a magic wand that they wave, which is called the Shabbat contract. Shabbat contract is complicated. I'm not going to get into that now, which is they basically make a partnership with a goy, and they say that the goy will earn most of the, they'll earn whatever is done on Shabbat, but you really don't know how much you earned on Shabbat, so you make up a certain nominal amount that'll cancel each other out. And sometimes that can be looked upon as something that's not so serious. So that's not the best priority unless you really make a Shabbat contract in a way that people sit down and calculate that your non-Jewish partner is really getting those earnings, and quarterly you make such a calculation and you revisit the calculations and you do it in a real way of partnership. But it takes a lot of time, and most people don't do that, and they expect to go into the rabbi and just for him to sign a paper and that's it. And that's definitely not the proper thing that recommended according to halacha. Better than nothing, but definitely not the recommended way. So he asked me, is there a recommended way how to have a Jewish salesman in halacha? And here I want to introduce you to a concept, which is the following. It's based on a Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, which discusses that a person shouldn't rent out a bathhouse, mirchatz. It was a hammam, we call it, right? To a goy, because it's called in the name of the Jew. And the Gemara mentions that the problem there was mar'ita ayin. It looks like a Jew is open on Shabbat and you're hiring him per hour. That's what it looks like. But the Gemara says in Chaf Aleph Amud Bet, Avodah Zarah, that if the Jew has a field and he has people working in his field as an aris. What's an aris? A sharecropper, percentage base. That means the sharecropper is going to work on the field. You get half of the profits, he gets half of the profits. You get 3/4, he gets 1/4, and the like. Whatever you made the arrangement. The Gemara says, aval sadeh is mutar. Why? Because everybody knows that an aris, a sharecropper, is doing it for his benefit. He's doing it for himself, and everybody knows that's why he's doing it, and that you're not hiring him per hour. Hiring him per hour is forbidden. So let's understand and let's recap. There are two levels we've discussed so far. There's different levels in halacha in what is forbidden, what is permitted, and what is in the middle forbidden because of mar'ita ayin. What's forbidden is to hire a worker per hour for you to work on Shabbat. For you to have a salesman sit in your store on Shabbat and you pay him $15 or $20 or $30 an hour, you are paying him to work for you on Shabbat. That's categorically asur. That's called schir yom, and it's a prohibition of amira lagoy. You're asking a goy to work for you on Shabbat. Clear cut. Nobody argues on such a prohibition. Then you have something that's permitted, which is the case of the Gemara, of an aris, somebody who is a sharecropper. He makes money for himself, And then you can't say that you're asking him to work for you on Shabbat, because he's working ada'ata de nafshe. He's working for himself for a certain percentage. That's totally permitted. Then you have something in the middle, which is a merchatz. A merchatz, it could be that you're renting it out to the goy, which is a rental, which is it's totally his. But there is a mar'ita ayin achshad, there is a suspicion that people are going to think you're really paying him per hour. People are going to think you're paying him per hour. These halachot get very complicated, and maybe in another opportunity we'll speak about them more in depth. But what we want to know is that, so you have somebody working in your office, how could you make it permitted in a way that people don't think that there's a marita ayin, or in a way that would be permitted? So let's start first with the teshuva of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid. He's asking the following: a Jew, once again it's Siman Chav Daled, Yisrael in Vayomer Yitzchak, yeah, Yisrael sheba'a lo schora mi'are Edom. So a Jew has merchandise that comes from I think he means the west, Eretz Edom. V'natan ota biyad goy, and he gives it to a non-Jew, his worker, his salesman. Lemuchra al yado b'commission, to get commission. I think you could all understand what commission means. Commission, right? V'yadua lakol sheschora zui shel Yisrael. But everybody knows it's the Jews' merchandise. V'agoy mocher ota kol sheshet yemei ha'maaseh. And the Jew and the goy is selling it all 6 days. Could he let him do it also on Shabbat? Because since he made with him a price, that he is getting a commission. So the goy should be getting it on commission, and it should be he's doing it for himself. Or maybe it's not permitted. Since everybody knows it's the Jews, you can't let him, because then there's marita ayin. Because somebody who sees it is going to say he's doing it not because of commission, he's doing it per hour. That was the question of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid. So I want to start off with the following. Before I get into what Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid says, I'll tell you what other poskim had a similar question. There's a famous teshuvah from the Noda B'Yehuda. Noda B'Yehuda is in Orach Chaim, Siman Chavtet. And the Noda B'Yehuda says the following. He was asked by two of his members about selling in Shabbat. He had a non-Jew in a store that was selling their merchandise. So that's the typical question over here, and he says it doesn't make a difference to the non-Jew if a guy comes to buy in the store or not. He's gonna get his per hour salary anyways. So he says v'davar ze asur shim ken ma shemocher nochri b'Shabbat urak letovat Yisrael. Says the Noda B'Yehuda, whatever he has is asur. Why? Because he's doing adata de Yisrael. So is there a solution to such a thing? So Noda B'Yehuda says he has an idea how to make it a solution. He has an idea how to prevent an isur totally. What they should make is that the guy should get a commission on every single sale, even a small commission. But it has to be something commission on every, let's say, 1,000 that he sells, he gets one, or every certain amount of sales that he does, he gets an extra commission. And then you could say he's called adata de nafsheka avid, and he points this to Siman Resh Mem Dalet Sivav in the Shulchan Aruch that has a similar situation where a Jew is going to collect taxes. He's and he sends a non-Jew for collecting taxes, but it's for the Jew, but the non-Jew is getting a commission, so that would be permitted. So the Noda B'Yehuda says similarly in such a case it should be allowed. So why? Because he's getting a percentage base. Now the Khatam Sofer had a similar question. The Khatam Sofer is in Orach Chaim Siman Memtet. The Khatam Sofer was asked a similar question. He says he has a proof that it's forbidden because the Gemara says, what's an aris if they get a fourth, or they get a third, or they get half, but that they get any type of percentage whatsoever while they're getting their salary? That's just a trick. And if that would be the case, why by Merchatz they didn't give that solution? So he says, obviously, it's always considered that it's that people that even if he's getting a percentage, it's still called that he's doing it for the Yisrael, and it's forbidden. So the Khatam Sofer says he doesn't agree to the heter, and he doesn't agree to the heter, and in his opinion, it's asur. That's what the Khatam Sofer says. But the Nodibida says it's mutar. And the Mishnah Brura in Siman Resh Mem Gimel actually discusses having a non-Jew work for you. And he says that if you have a non-Jew come into your store and he's selling and he's coming just to sell to your store because you want him to be there, it's forbidden and there's no way out of it unless he gets a percentage. So he's mashma like the Nodibida, unless he gets a percentage. Which this is the halacha as well. Just one addition is that in the Sefer Commerce and Halacha by Rav Kushner in page 30, he brings from Rav Shlomo Miller that the percentage has to be something that the goy has to feel an incentive to do. It can't be just like a negligible percentage. It has to be a percentage that the goy will have an incentive to sell. Then we transform it magically from the non-Jew, and this is the whole principle of these halachot, of the non-Jew doing something, Adata di Israel. He's not, in other words, that we don't want, that's forbidden. Rather, he's doing it Adata di Israel. He's doing it for the Jew, and that would be allowed. There's only one issue. The only time where this is going to be permitted is when there's no chashash of bar'ita ayin. If he's doing it from his house, or he's doing it from an office of yours that's in a non-Jewish neighborhood, and then people don't know that it's a Jew's. But if it's a Jew's store, open on Pico Boulevard over here, it's not going to help that the non-Jew's getting a percentage, because it's still, there's a marita ayin, there's a chashad that people are going to think that he's working, that he's working per hour, which he actually is working. Part of his salary is per hour, because what we were matter is that even though he gets a salary per hour, but the fact that he also gets a percentage will permit that. And although the Khatam Sofer argues, he says no, he has to be totally percentage based. But le'alacha, we said we could be lenient to biyuda. But that's only on the condition that there's no marita ayin. If there's marita ayin, that's a separate prohibition. So if he's going to be sitting in a store in middle of the Jewish section open, then I'll go, no, I'm giving him a percentage, just fine. That's not allowed, because then there's still a problem. They're going to think that he's doing it, that he's doing it for a salary, and that's a separate problem of marita ayin. So either way, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Walid has a little bit of a different approach, and he says the following. He brings from different places in the Shulchan Aruch that if everybody knows it's the Jews, then it should be forbidden. And he says that it could be that when you're not doing a complete melacha, what's not called a complete melacha? You're just doing business. Now, what's the prohibition of doing business on Shabbat? You're not allowed to write in your computer or write in your phone. So that's Isurei Deoraita, all those things. That's what we're not discussing. But let's say a guy comes into a store and he pays money and he gets something. Is there an Isur Deoraita being violated? Not necessarily. And the money is muktzeh. It's definitely, so it's derabanan, he violated. We're not saying it's mutar. It's totally asur, but it's derabanan. It's not called the melacha gemura. So it says Rabbi Yitzchak over here, since it's only derabanan and it's not a melacha gemura, because it's also prohibited because you might come to write, which is very logical. So he says maybe a goy doing it in public, and the Jews know that it's this other Jews' merchandise that's being sold. Maybe that would be allowed, and he's not sure. And he goes back and forth on it, and he says limaskana. That's over here that he gave the non-Jew to work on a commission base, which we said was adata de nafshe, כשאין המלאכה גמורה, כיוון דווקא ישראל אינו אלא איסור דרבנן, לא מחמירינן כולי בגוי מחשש הרועים שאומרים שעושה בשליחות ישראל. It's around מראית העין. We're not חושש so much on מראית העין when it's not a complete melacha that we're worried that he's going to do. And he says, שהרי אף אם עושה בשליחות ישראל, ושבות דשבות היינו לאסור, לומר גוי בשבת. ושעושה הגוי מעצמו, שם היום ישראל אומר לעשות לא מחמרין. So now, in a case that we're not telling the non-Jew to do it for us. We're doing it, do it for yourself. Make yourself a commission. And when he's going to do it on a commission, he's not doing any melacha. He's just doing business, as we call it. And that's not a total isur de rabbanan, de oraita, that's isur de rabbanan. We're not telling him to write on the computer. That's his problem if he wants to write to remember. We're telling him just to sell. So says Rabbi Yitzchak, it's not an isur de oraita, it's only marita ayin, and he's willing to permit in his case. In our case, we said something a little bit similar. We said that if it's in a Jewish neighborhood, he's still doing so many melachot, it's not so simple to say it's allowed, because nowadays the way you sell is by selling emails, by running his credit card. So there are isur de oraita. So by us, it would be allowed only in a case if it's a non-Jewish neighborhood, or if the guy is doing it within his house. So if you want to have your non-Jewish salesman working for you, it has to be in your house and on a percentage based. And even if you're giving him also a salary, but as long as it's a percentage based that he feels incentivized to do it, it would be permitted. So those are some of the rules, and that's a specific case, not to learn out from other cases.